Good morning once again. My name is Shola Ajani, School of Consulting. This is Module 3 of the January 2026 course. Good morning and welcome everyone. Today we're looking at the Module 3, the product model. We're looking at Module 3 of 6 modules. Module 3 of 6 modules. Who can remind us of what Module 1 is? What Module 1 and 2 is? Who can remind us? What is Module 1? What did we cover in Module 1? What did we cover in Module 1 or Module 2? Ambassador Timothy, can you help us, sir? Ambassador Timothy, what did we cover in Module 1? Can you help us, sir? We can't hear you. We can't hear you, sir. Okay, while Ambassador is getting ready, let's go to Engineer Suber. What did we cover in Module 1? What was Module 1? Am I the only one in the class?
Yeah, I'm here, please.
Okay.
Module 1, we talk about the problem itself, defining the problem and analyzing the problem.
So when we say the problem, what do we mean by that in consulting terms?
That is in the consulting terms.
How does that relate to a consultant? How does problem
Okay, that is
consultant?
the problem definition, that you take ownership of the problem.
The problem you own. I like that.
Yes.
The problem you own. And I gave the example of the School of Consulting. What is the problem we are trying to solve at the School of Consulting? What is the problem? What is
That is
the problem?
to prepare retiree or people who want to transit into consulting.
That is
That
what
doesn't
we
happen.
do. That is what we do. But what is the problem? Who can help me? Who can help? Who can help engineer? What is the engineer just told us what we do at the School of Consulting, but why do we?
Can I come in?
Yes, please, Stan.
Yes. So the problem that you try to solve is inadequacy or unpreparedness of people who are getting into consultancy in terms of knowledge, skills, and the attitude, the appropriate attitude in order to carry out that.
So what is the problem we are solving? What is the problem? Yes, inadequacy of skills. Yes, anyone else?
Sir,
yes, sir.
I think the problem is, okay, I think the problem is we have some people who want to transit and they don't have a crew on how to who want to transit into consulting and they don't have the crew.
Good.
Of people who are retiring and they don't have the knowledge of how to go about
it. So the problem is people want to become consultants. Maybe they've been in a career, they're about to retire, and they don't know how or how to. So what we do at the School of Consulting is provide the how to become a consultant or how to transit into consulting. That is the problem we solve. Okay, that is the problem we solve. So as a consultant, you can have series of problems that you solve. But to be honest with you, I always advocate when you start with one problem. Be known for that problem before you start looking at other things. The School of Consulting is known for helping people to become consultants. But guess what? We do other things. For instance, once you become a consultant and you want to grow, We do those services as well. We do all manner of things. But the main thing that is built around is helping people to become consultants. That's the problem we solve. So we encourage you as well. Find that one problem that you are solving. Build around that problem. I know people are always worried, can I be doing just one thing? Yes. Build around it. And trust me, I've seen this thing happen so many times. You see, you cannot be known for anything if you are doing everything. So, I repeat, you cannot be known for anything if you are doing everything. It is just our mentality that we are hustling, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. But then you have a core strength. You have a core strength. Build around that core strength. All these other things that you're doing will come. And I'll give you the example. When we started out in consulting, we focused, I was trying to do recruit. I was trying to recruit for everybody as a consultant. 2 years, I was knocking on the doors of banks, knocking everywhere. Nobody listened to me for 2 years because I was just trying to do recruitment. It was later I realized that, would you leave an established player that you know for a new player that you don't know? Ask yourself. So we came in, we were trying to offer recruitment. We were not offering anything different. So why would somebody take a chance on us if we were not offering anything different or better than those who are ahead of us? So unless you are bringing something new to the table, you may not get a chance at the table to speak. So as a new player in a market that is crowded, that has existing players, the only way you can survive in that market is to have a differentiation. What is it in that market? What is the problem in that market? Existing players are not solving well. And if you're lucky, like I think it's Stan, or is it Felix in Zambia, who is in procurement, is a new field. And so a new playing field. So if you come into a market and there are no players, brilliant. That's good for you. But if you come into a market that the existing players, you cannot offer what the existing players are offering. Simply because I'd rather take a chance and stick with my existing client, that is the consultant that is serving me, because I know that existing client, than risk starting with a new consultant that is not offering anything different. So for 2 years, we were trying to sell recruitment services to companies. Nobody listened to us until we pivoted and created a new category, which was international recruitment. And it was a smaller area of recruitment, but guess what? It gave us a platform. It was a problem that we were now solving. So for companies in Africa who are looking for expertise, they were looking for staff locally that they couldn't find, local staff, they have those skills. Those companies were willing to look abroad. And so we went to these companies and said, look, guess what? We can help you recruit. It's still recruitment, but we created a new category called Diaspora International Recruitment. It's still recruitment. And guess what? When we pivoted into this smaller category, we became known for helping companies solve their recruitment problems where they couldn't find people locally. You could look abroad. And so we became known for solving that problem. Guess what happened after 2 years? I had CNN call, I have a video on CNN. CNN came. We became so known for that small area of problem. And the interesting thing is, once we had clients that were servicing in that category, the same clients that were trying to run after for close to 2 years came running and said, look, okay, we know you focus on international recruitment, but can you help us with local recruitment? And I'm thinking, this is interesting. What we were trying to chase for 2 years is now being presented to us on a platter. So focus on one area, be known as a leader in that area, and every other business around that will come calling. Again, look at the banking industry. When the new generation banks were going to start about 30 to 40 years ago, they didn't try to compete with the big banks on branches, on revenue base, on number of customers. They simply could not compete. Each bank would start with one customer, one branch. And so they looked at the banking industry and felt, you know what? we can't compete on those terms. Why don't you compete on the different terms? So they now started offering banking services, faster banking services, online banking, and all those kind of things. And they generated their clients from that because of that differentiation. Oh, we could offer faster banking services. You could bank online. So a lot of people migrated to them. And over time, they themselves have become market leaders. In the last 5 to 7 years, there have been new players, because even the entire banking industry only cater for about 45 to 50 or 55 at most % of the population. The unbanked, close to 45%, the rural areas that had no banks. And then we have the fintech. So the fintech came in, financial technology came in, and says, guess what? We could provide banking services to you. So again, they looked at a problem, looked at an unserved market, and decided to base their product to serve the unserved market. That's about 7 years ago. Now, in banking in the last 2 years, we now have people saying, look, you don't even have to open an account to do banking. You can use your phone number. That's incredible. See, you can see the migration in banking, simply because someone sat somewhere and said, look, there's this problem. Let me come into this market by solving this small problem. Again, look at the narrative. The big banks had branches, had customers, had big revenues. The banks that were coming in, say 40 years ago, did not challenge them on those terms. They challenged them in their weak areas, poor customer service, no use of IT. And so they use that area to come into banking. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we had what we call the fintech. The fintech looked at the banking industry and said, a number of people are still unbanked. Why don't you go after the people that are unbanked? Again, they looked at the problem, focused on that problem to build their product, and they used that to come in and enter the market. In the last 2-3 years, we now have ultimately mobile banking, using your phone number, unheard of. Now, for every one of these, if you look at them, the same banking, the traditional banking, they now offer the traditional banking, but they didn't start by trying to offer traditional banking. Okay, so my encouragement to you is, as a consultant, build your consultancy around a problem. Solve that problem, be known for solving that problem, and then you can begin to expand. Okay, so that's problem. So the next thing that we looked at was what? Who can remind us? Module 1 was looking at owning a problem as a consultant. So module 2 was what? What did you look at in module 2? Who can remind us? Who can help us? Who can help us there? Module 2 was what? Engineer. Module 2 was what? Stan. Madam Yemisi. What did module 2 cover? Mr. Aguirre? Who can help us? Hello? So we said module 1, we looked at owning a problem. Then module 2, we looked at processes or process. Who can remind us what that meant? Process.
That is proprietary framework.
Yes, proprietary framework. How do you deliver the process? How do you solve the problem? Okay, or what is the process of solving the problem? Don't just say you're a school of consulting, you are trying to help people to become consultants. What is the process? What do people go through? After the training, what do they do? What are the steps? What are the stages? So you've got to have a designed process. And that design process is what we call your proprietary framework. So when you're selling your consulting service, you're not only trying to solve a problem, you are also telling them that this is how we would do it. So you must have a defined process. You see, one of the important things about processes, it shows transparency. This is what you can expect when you sign up for this product. Or sorry, when you sign up for our consultancy, when you sign up for our consultancy to help you, this is what you can expect. So people can see how the transformation will go through your defined process. This is step one. This is what you do for step one. This is what we do step two. This is what we do step three. When we talk about the School of Consulting, we have a 6-month program that is broken down into 3 parts. What you're going through now, the training, is part 1. In part 2, I'm going to spend one-on-one time with you. Part 1 now, we're talking generic, but in part 2, we'll sit down with you and look at it. What is it that you want to do? And then help you to do what you want to do, especially building your product. And in part 3, we work with you on how to launch your consultancy. So that's the process. So when I'm marketing School of Consulting, I'm saying it's a 6-month program divided into 3 parts. And part 1 is this, part 2 is this, part 3 is this. So likewise, yourself, once you start your consultancy, don't only hone a problem. Be clear about the stages, the steps you take people through. And that is defined as your proprietary framework, your framework of service delivery, which is the assignments that we did last week. Okay? Which is the assignment that we did last week. So any questions on this before I move forward? So today, we want to look at the 3rd pillar. The 3rd pillar, which is products. That is what we want to look at today. So before I move any further, any questions on what we have done so far on problem and then on process? Any questions, please? Anyone? Anything you're not clear on? You see, I'm building. You cannot, if you have a wrong foundation, you have a wrong building. So that's why I've taken time to go through the step 1, which is to be successful in consulting, you must own a problem. That's the step 1. Then step 2 is, how do I solve this problem? What are the stages I will take my clients through in solving this problem? See, I'm going this way because part of what you do in consulting is selling. And one of the things that help you to sell your service as a consultant is your clearly defined steps, the transformation people can expect and will go through when you are selling the service. When there's transparency, you can sell. Don't just tell me that I'll make you a consultant. How? How are the steps you're going to take me through? Okay. So any question before we go on to pillar 3 or module 3, which is product? Any question, please? Engineer Ibrahim, any question? Benedict, Stan, Dr. Tina, Madam Yemisi, we have 2 Yemisis in the house. Ambassador, Felix, Charity, good to see you. Hubert from Ghana. Any questions, please? So we're all clear. All right. All right. So today I want to move on to module 3 or the 3rd pillar. I said to you, we're looking at the 6 pillars of building a successful consulting practice. The 6 pillars of consulting. Okay. And the first pillar, as far as we are concerned in School of Consulting, is that you must own a problem. So what problem do you own as a consultant or as a consultancy? So once you define the first pillar, which is the problem, the second thing to define is the process you will take a client through to solve their problem. 6-stage, 3-stage, 5-stage, that's your proprietary framework. And we encouraged us last week and with the assignment to begin to think of how to design a proprietary framework. Proprietary in the sense that it is your framework. It is 100% yours. And last week, we looked at different models, different framework that people have out there. And I used the example of DESA for the School of Consulting. So you can come up with your own, and some of us have done the assignment. I'll still give others the opportunity to do the assignment. You may say that the assignment is a lot. Yes, simply because we want to assess that you understand what we are talking about. We will not give you a certificate of consulting practice if we are not sure you know what you're talking about, because we are trying to build something in the School of Consulting. Anyone that has gone through this course of consulting, we want to be proud of them that they are well trained. Okay, we're in a competitive environment and we cannot afford to just say people have been well trained when they've not demonstrated or shown capacity. So that's why we do all these assignments. Okay, so the module 3 we're looking at today is products. How to package your expertise. Okay, how to package your solution into an offer, how to package your solution as an offer, if you like. Now, let me start by saying this. Consulting traditionally is a service-based industry. And what we are trying to do is not trying to change what consulting is, but we're trying to make consulting as something that you can succeed at. So if you go back to some of the things we've been talking about, we call it the consulting success. I'm not here to just train you about consulting. I want you to succeed. So we have developed the training as in a way to ensure that you succeed. That's why we are building it around 6 pillars. Pillar 1, what is the problem you're dealing with? Pillar 2, what is the process you take a client through? And then pillar 3, what we're looking at this morning is, what is the consulting products that you use to solve the problem? So for everyone who comes to School of Consulting, we encourage you to have a product, to develop, to design and develop and produce a product. You know, because when you have a product, it increases your chances, in fact, close to from between 30 and 70% of success once you have a consulting product. So like I said, consulting is traditionally a service-based industry. But if all you have is a service and not a product, you are just another consultant. If all you have is a service but no product, you are just another consultant. So what is a product? What is a consulting product? A structured, when we say structured, it is packaged in such a way that it's a repeatable offer designed to solve a defined problem. It's something you have to solve a design problem. It is not an advisory. It is not something that you do by hourly billing. Hourly billing or advisory is almost service-based. But when you have something that is packaged as a product, even though it may be a service, even the training that we do is a service, but we package it as a product. As a matter of fact, it is called productization. If you check that up and see the meaning of productization, it is putting together or packaging a service as a product. Now, let me say this again. Service are intangible items. People don't see service. And so products sell more than services. Products sell better than services. So if you're able to package how to solve a problem as a product, you are likely to sell more. If you are able to package what you sell as a service into a product, you are likely to increase your revenue and your growth as a consultant. Okay? So when you talk about problems, it is what you do, where you are going. The process of solving the problem is the journey you go through, like the routes. And guess what? The product is the vehicle. So look at that analogy. You're going somewhere. That is the problem you want to solve. The pathway, the route you take is the process. What takes you there is the product. Okay? What takes you there is the product. So for the problem you're solving, what helps you to solve the problem, what helps you to solve the problem you have as a consultant is the product. Now, without a product, your revenue is neither here or there. If it's a service, it is until when somebody gives you an assignment, so you can have inconsistent revenue. What you are doing is not defined. People can change what they want at any time. And then the pricing is not stable. We call it emotional pricing. People pay what they want to pay, not what your service or your product demands. But once you have a product, you have a defined amount that you want to charge for that product. Your product gives you what we call ability to position or authority to position, simply because people know you with your product. Say, for instance, the School of Consulting, we are known for what we do because of our product. The training that we do is a product to help you become a consultant. And so you can position yourself. It's easy to position yourself and say, this is what we do. And then you can predict your income. I mean, you can predict your income. You do it we do it as a repeatable offer. You repeat it on a scale. The training we do, every 4 months, we do the training, gather 15, 16 people together. This is how much you're charging. You can repeat your product. And then any product that you have, you can scale it. You can increase it. Instead of doing 4 in a year, I can do 6. I can do it. I just don't want to do that. So you can scale it. You can scale it once it's a product. So what makes a strong product? What makes a strong consulting product? It is what you have. Your product anchors a problem. Your product anchors a problem. So the training that we do anchors the problem of, I want to become a consultant. That's the training that we do. That's the product. So your product anchors a problem. Your product is used as a vehicle to solve a problem. Number 2, because you have a process, you have a defined outcome. People can see the outcome. Number 3 is the structured process, and that's your framework. Step 1, we do this. Step 2, we do this. Step 3, we do this. And step 4, we do this. Now you have something that people can look forward to. It's called a tangible deliverables. Tangible deliverable. People can hold on to it. At the end of this program, I'll have a certificate of consulting practice. That's a tangible delivery. At the end of this program, I'll be able to practice as a consultant. At the end of this program, I'll have the tools and the templates to become a consultant. At the end of this program, I'll have my niche defined. At the end of this program, I'll have my market defined. At the end of this program, I'll have a consulting product. So you can have a defined deliverable. And then number 5 and number 6, clear scope. What you are doing is defined, and there's a timeline, 6 months, 3 deliverables in 6 months. And then finally, and much more importantly, when you have a product, you can have what we call a value-based pricing logic. You base your pricing on the value that you generate. You base your pricing on the value that you generate. Your pricing is a reflection of the value you bring to the clients. Okay? So this makes a strong consulting, these items I just defined, makes it good to have a consulting product. So what type of consulting products can we have as a consultant? You can have a diagnostic product. We just launched a new product now. For the past 5 years, we are focused largely on helping people to become a consultant. Now we are very fairly established in that. We now have a service called Consulting Growth Services. Consulting Growth Services. Now this is focused at existing consultants. The School of Consulting originally focused on people that want to become consultants. But now, in addition to that, we have now set up Consulting Growth Services. There are consultancies that are not growing. And so we are targeting them by setting up a new product called Consulting Growth Services. And one of the things that we use there is we carry out diagnostic assessments. So if we're going to find out why you're not growing as a consultant, the first thing that we need to do is to carry out a diagnostic assessment. And so that diagnostic assessment is a product that we use to help companies to grow or to find out why they're not growing and to find out what they need. A company might not be growing for different reasons. So we have that as a product. You could have advisory products. For instance, Pricewaterhouse, PwC, Deloitte, they release monthly advisory products on the state of the economy. They release monthly products. And these products that they release, they're just documents that they release every month. Even though they are advisory, it's also what we call product marketing or content marketing. They are marketing the consultancy. So likewise, in your area of specialization, if nobody is producing any documentary on what is happening in the organization, it's called products of, it's called a strategic blueprint or product advisory. You do that every month. Implementation products, if you want to show how to do things, implement how to do this, how to do this. Most things, most videos you see on YouTube are implementation products or what we can call implementation products. Another major product is a retainer product. You have a client that wants retainership. One of them, if you're not speaking, can you mute your mic, please?
I'll take that.
Please, if you're not speaking, mute your mic. Please mute your mic if you're not speaking. I've muted everyone. Okay. Yeah, I've muted everyone. So. Okay. So, yeah, for example, you could have one of the popular products I encourage people to have is a retainer product. If you're in HR, there are thousands and thousands of companies who can't afford to have a designated HR department. A great retainer product is if you are able to offer HR services to, say, 20 companies, each paying you about $100. Conveniently, if they can pay $100, it's not enough to run an HR department. And then you have 20 clients, easily you make $2,000 on retainership just by providing HR services to these 20 clients of the 20 companies. You help them in their policies, you help them put together their documentations, their policies, you help them do recruitment, you help them do some training. You help them to ensure that they're compliant with HR laws. You have a retainership once you can. So you approach SMEs or medium-sized business and say, look, you don't have an HR department, but we can help you by way of being your retained, by way of a retainership. We can offer you HR consulting services. All you have to do is pay a token. Now, a token in 20 places at $100, that's $2,000. And that's just one of the things you are doing as a consultant. Training, you could also offer training as a product. What we are doing right now is a product of the School of Consulting. It's the training. So it's the training if you like what we said earlier, the training is the route through which we get to making you a consultant. Is the process. So you could package your training as a product, okay? As a product. So yes, we want to help people to become consultants. That's the problem. The process, you go through 3 stages. And then the product is our training. So it's the training that will take you through to help you to become a consultant. So the training becomes the products. And of course, you can have hybrid products. Besides the training that we offer, we do webinars. I write books. I do physical training. I do webinars. So you could have an hybrid of product. I say this, you can have a single product, a problem, but have a variety of products to solve that same problem. Okay, I repeat, you could have a single problem you're dealing with. Say, for instance, the problem of helping people to become a consultant, that's just one problem. But guess what? We have about 6 different products that people can use to become a consultant. If you can attend my 6 months program by way of a group training, you can attend a one-to-one consulting training program. That is another product. So if you cannot attend the group-based, the course that we're doing right now, you can sign up for a one-to-one program. That's another product. You could go through all my materials, read my books. That's another product. I could do mentoring. That's another product. So instead of having 5 different problems, I say to people, look, have one problem you are dealing with, but you can solve it in 5 different ways. And guess what? Those 5 different ways are 5 streams of income. So that's the way around it. So it's the same problem you're dealing with, but dealing with that problem based on the needs of the client. So you deal with the problem based on the needs of the client. Not everybody has the time to sit on a Saturday, 10 to 12 in the morning for 2 hours for 8 weeks. Not everybody has the luxury of that time or the convenience. You have other things you're doing. So somebody might say to me, 8 weeks is too long. I had an assignment I did in Ghana last year. The gentleman recruited me for 3 months, come to Ghana for 3 months, train me as a consultant on a one-to-one basis. So that's what we call personal consulting training. So my point is this: you could have a single problem you're dealing with, but you could solve that problem through or with different products, as opposed to having 5 problems and then trying to solve 5 problems with 5 different products. You could have 1 problem, but then have 5, 6, 7 different products. As I said, we do training one-on-one. We do the group training. People can read my books. People can attend my seminars. I do webinars, I do seminars. People can decide to do it one-on-one. So you're going to have different channels that you solve the same problem. That's what we call the hybrid product. Okay. So, yes. So how do you define your products? What is the framework for product development? Okay. Number 1, the first thing that you need to do is to define the problem. Define the problem. The next step is, what is the change that you are promising? What is the change that the product will bring about? So what is happening now? And what would happen after using our products? So what's the problem you are trying to solve? The problem I'm trying to solve is help people to become consultants. Step 2, what is the transformation? Right now, you're trying to become a consultant. At the end of the training, you'll be able to consult competently. That is the transformation. Then step 3 is design the process. You design the process. So in order to make someone a consultant, what are the different steps I need to take them through? That is me designing the process. So that process I now package as my deliverable. So my deliverable is part 1 is 8 weeks. You go through one-on-one training, or you go through online training. In your case, you're going to the online training. That is me packaging it as part 1. Part 2 is one-to-one mentoring and coaching. That's a package, that's a deliverable. And then part 3 is planning to implement your consulting practice, whether virtually or remotely or physically. So those are the deliverables that you can expect at the end of each step or each stage. Step 5, what would we cover and over what time period? What would we cover and over what time period? So I've told you what we'll cover, and then the timeline is 6 months. The first part 1 is 8 weeks. Part 2, it could be up to another 8 weeks, depending on your particular need. And then part 3 is 90 days. So we package it as 6 months. That is the timeline. Okay? And then based on that, you can now define your pricing. How much would you charge, or how much would I charge to cover this assignment over 6 months? Now, interesting thing is this process that I've gone through is a process I'm going to take every one of us through when we finish the part 1. So the part 1 will sit down, help you to design a product, package it, and come up with a price. So at the end of part 2, I want you, and I hope you will be in a position to have a consulting product. So part 1 is taking you through training. Part 2 is coming up with a product that you'll be able to sell as a consultant. Part 3 is helping you to set up the consultancy. So I am so confident that this 3-stage process would help you start as a consultant. Okay, so that is my product. That's the framework. So likewise, you need to have the same as a consultant. What is the problem you are solving? What is the transformation people can look forward to from where they are to where they want to be? What are the steps you're going to take them through? What can they expect at the end of the 6 months, in my case, of training people to become a consultant? What can they expect? What is the scope? What is covered and what is not covered? And then that 6 months, don't just say, I'll make you a consultant in 6 months. Break it down. Just as I've broken it down. Part 1 is 8 weeks. Part 2 is almost, again, can be up to 8 weeks, depending on your need. And then part 3 is 90 days. And then, I mean, everybody on this training is paying. There's a fee that you are paying. Okay, so that is basically the framework to develop a product. Again, interestingly, I'm not going to leave you at it. At the end of stage 1, which is the 8 weeks we are doing, we'll go into product development, one-on-one product development. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. I've trained you and then you can go your way. Part 2 avails you to me 100% designing your own products. Okay? So again, how do you turn it into a product? First, the idea. What is the idea? The idea is the problem you are solving. Okay? So this is the problem. How do I solve it? So define your problem. Define the problem you want to solve. That, and it stems from an idea. Problem will stem from what should be happening that is not happening, or what is happening that shouldn't happen. It will start from there. Okay? It will start from there. It will start from an idea. How did I start the School of Consulting? I started by look, I've done 25 years as a consultant in England. What next? What next? I mean, I was tired of traveling. I was just tired of traveling. I wanted something new. And my background, I actually love training. I'm passionate about training. And I added 2 and 2 together. I added consultancy background together with my love for training. It's okay. Maybe I should set up a training school that trains people to become a consultant. I mean, I've consulted for 25 years. I know 1 or 2 things about consulting. Maybe I can begin to train people. So that's the idea. Why don't I pass my knowledge? Maybe it's my age. At my age, a lot of people are thinking about legacy. What else do I do? You know, what else can I do? Maybe I'm in that age, okay, of giving back. I don't know. So that's how the idea came about. Let's start a School of Consulting. And when we researched it, there was no School of Consulting per se. For me, that was a sign that maybe I'm onto something. The only way people became consultants was either they do an MBA in consulting or an MBA in strategy. There's no dedicated school for someone to become a consultant, especially in this part of our world. It is practically non-existent. Maybe in England, if you work for any of the consulting firms, or even in Africa, you work for any of the consulting firms, you could get into consulting. But how many of us would ever have the opportunity to work for a consulting firm? And so that's where the idea came from. You know what? And because you can have an idea, but you got to test the idea. Would this work? So the second thing we did was to test it. So we said, how did we test it? We put the program together, advertised it. We want to become a consultant. And then we tested the idea. And for our early clients, it was a 1-year product, 1-year training program to become a consultant. I was in England then, and I would come to Africa, spend, if I was traveling every month, I'll come to Africa, do the training. For those who signed up, meet once a month. But I realized that there is no way I can sustain the business like that. Traveling from England to Nigeria or Ghana every month, do 2 weeks, gather the participants together, training for 2 weeks. Occasionally we do online. But there was no way we could sustain it. There was no way we could sustain. So, but we had to test it. So you must find a way of testing it. So your early test might fail, but don't give up. What you do is you get feedback, you reiterate it, and you routine it, and you refine. You refine how you deliver your idea. As a matter of fact, when we started the consulting training, we were just training everybody. We had people who had just left school, want to become a consultant. We had everybody, so it was an all-comers affair. But after 4 or 5 years, we realized that you cannot be selling this as an all-comers affair. For you to get people to really buy into this, target a particular demographic or clients group. And so we began targeting people who are transitioning. Maybe you spent 15 years as an accountant, and then you want to become a consultant, or you spend 25 years in your profession and you want to retire as a consultant. So we refined it, and that is now our focus audience. The more likely you are to retirement, the more you will consider consulting than someone that has just left school. So this was by refining and by testing it. If we didn't test it or try the idea, we may never find out. So you got to refine it by trying it. Like I said, in the early days, you might fail, but that doesn't mean you give up. You keep refining it until you identify your core audience. And as it is now, our core audience is people that are transitioning or retiring. Is this scalable? Yes. Every year, people retire. Every year, people want to become consultants. And like I said, I can't even handle the number of potential clients we can handle in a year. Okay? So that's where you go look at your market. Is there a growth trajectory in your market, or can it scale? It's very important that you're able to answer yes to that. Otherwise, you might have a shrinking market. You want a growing market. And so when we've done that, we have templates, we have training materials, we've developed framework. So everything that we used to train you are materials that we have used over time. Every time we keep developing it, adding more things to it. Now, we're at that point where we are scaling. We do cohorts. We do 4 cohorts in a year. So the next cohort is going to be in April. Your cohort this is January, right up to March. Take a break, do another one in April. So we have 4 cohorts in a year. So that's how to define and how to develop your product development life cycle. What are the advantages of having a product? What are the advantages? I can predict my revenue. If I have 15 clients for each cohort, and I have 4 cohorts in a year, that's 60 clients. 60 clients paying me about $500, $1,000. I mean, for where I am right now in my life, is a lot of money. So that's how you can predict your revenue. You can predict your income, okay? And again, you have a strong positioning. You have a strong authority positioning. Why? Because you have a product. People know more about the product than the School of Consulting. So the School of Consulting is the vehicle. The product is the training that you go through, okay? And then there's premium pricing. You can do premium pricing simply because you hardly have a competition. But be careful, don't outprice yourself out of your market. Yes, you have a market that nobody is in, but don't overprice your market. Now, the good thing is in part 2, not only are we helping you to develop your products, we also help you to come up with your pricing strategy. And guess what? It is a lot easier to market my product. Why? Because we have it on YouTube, we have it on Facebook, we have videos, all manner of materials. I just put it out there, and it markets itself. It markets itself. Now, if I want to scale this, what do I need to do? Get 1 or 2 of our trainees to run another program concurrently with the 4 I am running. That's another 4. Get a 3rd person to run another program. So instead of running 4 programs in a year, we could run 12 programs in a year. That's scalability. So it's critical that you're able to scale your products. Okay, 1 product, different channels. So I've talked a lot about products, but as I said, consulting is actually service-based. So product for us is turning your service into a product. It's called productization. Now, the thing about product services, the service is based on time. But the interesting thing about product is based on outcome. I want to help people to become consultants. And that's how you measure my success rate. At the end of it, do people become consultants? So when I'm talking about products, it's based on how many days. When I'm talking about, when I'm talking about service, it's based on how long and how many days. But product is based about the result at the end. Like Madam Yemisi asked last week, how many people, no, she didn't say that. How do I engage the people that we have trained? So what is the transformation? What is the result? Okay. We're nearly finishing, and I'm going to share an example with you. So common mistakes you should avoid. Common mistakes to avoid. Solving too many problems in one offer. Yeah. Trying to solve too many problems in one offer. Like I said, I want to make a consultant. That's the problem I'm solving.
Go on, or we should wait for you to finish.
Sorry?
Can we make clarification as you move on? Or
Yes. I said so last week. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Sorry, sir. When you were talking about products and services, you said the product is based on results and results and sorry, it's based on results. Why services is based on what? I didn't get that.
Service is based on how many days will it take to do these assignments. So service is based on time, is based on days. So service is time-based, but products are outcome-based. They are physical.
Okay.
You know? So product is about the change. Service is about the timeline. How long will it take? Oh, does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please, you can stop me at any time to ask questions. If we leave it to the end, you might forget.
Thanks, sir.
No problem. So common mistakes, don't try and solve too many problems at the same time. Like I said, you wouldn't be known for anything if you are known for everything. Be known for one thing and then build your brand around that one thing. I told you there are several things that we do. There's several products that we have out there, but the one product that has given us awareness and credibility is helping people to become consultants, okay? Now, the other thing again is validate that there's a demand before creating a product. Validate there's a demand before creating a product. I repeat, validate there's a demand before creating a product. One of my mentees gave a beautiful example that I'm going to share with you. So there's this village where the parents send their children to fetch water from a far distance because they don't have water in their village. So the children are sent to fetch water from a far location. So it takes them a long time to get back from fetching the water. So this agency comes and says, brilliant, we can solve this problem. The problem they have is they don't have water in their village. And so they began to dig boreholes and help them to have water in their village. So as far as the agency is concerned, the problem is solved. Now the children don't have to go far to get water. The problem is there's no water in the village. We've solved the problem. We've created boreholes, rushing water. Children don't have to go far before they get water. Guess what happened? The children were still being sent to faraway places to get water. The boreholes that were created were barely used. And so they began to wonder, how come you are still sending your children to faraway places to get water? How come? I mean, we looked at it, that you are sending them to faraway places to get water. And so that's why we've created this borehole. And the parent turned around and said, did you ask us why we send our children to faraway places before you dug these wells and created boreholes? So no, not really. We didn't ask you because the problem was obvious. And so that's why we simply went ahead to create the borehole. And the parent answered, we live in single room mots, single room accommodation, just small huts. There are no privates or privacy for the parents, and the parents and the children all stay in the same room. And so the reason why we send them to faraway places to get water is so that as parents, we can spend private time together. We can spend time together when the parents are not there. So even though you've created water supposedly as a solution for us, it is not the problem. That's not the problem we have. The problem we have is that of privacy. That's why we send our children to faraway places to get water. So the problem we have is privacy. So if you want to help us, it's not so much creating the water. If we have accommodation that has different rooms for the parents and for the children, then problem solved. And I mean, it was an eye-opener. So before you create a product, find out if there's a demand. Don't simply go ahead and create a product without validating there's a demand. I'll give you another story, another example. 2 salesmen were sent to a place to sell shoes. When they got to this place, people were not wearing shoes. People don't naturally wear shoes in the place. One of the salesmen said, wow, called the factory and says, please send all the shoes that we have produced, send them here. people don't wear shoes here. We will sell all the shoes here. And even once you finished the production, start producing more. People don't wear shoes here. And so there's a market for shoes. Did the salesman try to find out why they don't wear shoes? Did he validate or test to find out? By simply looking at the problem, they created a solution without validating demand. The second salesman said, hold on, people don't wear shoes here. It must be for a reason. Why don't you find out why they don't wear shoes? And so the second one decided to carry out a research. And the research revealed that in that community, there are worshippers of cow meat. And the factory largely uses the cow hide, the skin of the cow to make shoes. Now, these people refuse to wear any product that is made from a cow simply because they worship the cow. And that's the reason why they don't wear shoes. So from that research, the guy was able to realize that if we produce shoes based on cow skin, these people will not buy. But if we were to produce shoes from another material, maybe a synthetic material, perhaps they will buy. So again, proves the point that carry out your research before developing your product. Very, very key. Is there a demand for it? And thirdly, you might stumble upon an idea that no one has done before. Be careful. It may well be that somebody has seen the idea, done their research, and realized that there's no market for that product. That's why nobody has done it. It doesn't necessarily mean you are the most clever person and the first person to spot that idea. Someone else might have spotted the idea, carried out their research, and realized that the demand is such that it will not support a consulting product. So these are key things you need to bear in mind when you are developing products. Another mistake you need to avoid is underpricing. A lot of people come into the market underpricing with their products, especially in a competitive market. The market leader or the average market is selling for $10. And then the production cost is $8. Yes, Mr. Charles.
Good morning, sir. In terms of validating the demand and market research, from your experience, would you advise that we rely on already available research reports, or would it be better to engage professional researchers, or better still, carry out the research ourselves? I asked that question because of one particular reason. Cultures differ, and in some cultures, clients or customers are more open than others. In certain cultures, people talk with tongue in cheek. They say one thing and they tell you the problem is one, but in reality, the problem is the opposite. In other cultures, they come out clearly and tell you, this is our problem, we need it solved. So, looking at all of this I've said, what would be your advice in terms of validating the problem?
Thank you, sir. I'll say do all. Carry out research yourself. Look at published research materials. And what was the third one?
Engaging a professional researcher.
Yeah, engaging a professional researchers. Do all three. Having said that, engaging professional researchers using established reports can be expensive, extremely expensive. In fact, the price can be prohibitive. Some products are as high as $3,000, $5,000 on a market research in a particular area. So it can be a bit prohibitive for somebody that's coming in. So my best advice will always be, if you can afford to get researchers to do it. But the truth of the matter is no researcher can do 100% research like yourself. So ultimately, I'll say do the research yourself. Start somewhere. Use a sampling pool to do your research, and then try and iterate it, get feedback, iterate it, and redefine it over time. So good question. Research is absolutely essential, whether is based on published research or using a researcher or doing it yourself. Research is absolutely important that you carry out, okay? If you can use all three, brilliant. But the least that you can start with is to do research yourself. Try and validate the idea. Test the market yourself. Now, the interesting thing is a lot easier to even test the market nowadays. All you need to do is put it together and put it on LinkedIn. Honestly, put it on LinkedIn, put it on Facebook and then see the kind of response that you get. That's one of the best ways to test your idea. All right, 2 more hands raised. Yes, 2 hands raised.
Okay. So, based on one of those clarifications that you made concerning if they should use existing information or research work.
Yeah.
So, to me, from my knowledge of research as a research student, I believe that where one person's finding stops, another starts.
Yeah.
And because the world is evolving, most of the time, some ideas can become obsolete. So, I just feel that it's always good to be able to look at what is obtainable in terms of technology, the process, a lot of things happening and changing because change is inevitable. So it's good to also build up on current realities and then be able to use it for the product and services that we're rendering. Thank you.
Very, very good contribution. Thank you, Madam Yemisi. In fact, thank you very much for that. Somebody was telling me that the ideas that come from abroad are obsolete ideas that they no longer use. They're never going to give you their current ideas. And I think that just strengthens what you have just said. Oh, let's say transfer technology. Which technology are they going to transfer? The one that they have stopped using or the one they are developing? No one is going to give you their latest technology. So good points. Always revalidate. So if you're going to buy research or somebody's going to do it for you, let it be within the framework of current realities. Thank you very much for that. Yes, anyone else before we move on? Anyone else? Okay, another thing to avoid is product branding, weak product branding. Weak product branding. You have a brilliant problem you are solving, you define your processes, but then nobody knows about your products. And that is where failure starts. You know, you've got a good product, but nobody knows about it. It's not well positioned. People don't know about it. People don't know what the problem your product is solving. There's no awareness. So that is critical. So it's beyond, I can solve a problem. It is beyond, this is how I solve it. People must know your product. What problem is this product solving? And make it simple. People don't like complicated things. Make it simple. This training would help you to do A, B, C. Simple. Make it and keep re-emphasizing that. Don't have too many messages, just one message. This product will do A, B, C. This product will do ABC. Keep re-emphasize that. In fact, what I do when I do product branding is the naming. I'll come to that in a minute. My naming convention helps my product. My naming convention helps my product. So before I come into naming convention, the other thing again is you don't have a predefined measurable outcome. People cannot measure what they will get. You're not defining what they will get and they cannot measure it. If I say to you that in 8 weeks, I'll teach you the 6 pillars of having a successful consulting practice. In that 8 weeks, you must know the 6 pillars. We started with 3 pillars now. In that 8 weeks, you must know all the 6 pillars, all the foundation that you need to have a successful consulting practice. So define, how do you have a measurable outcome? Now, we've talked about problem. You try to define your problem in your assignment. That's the first outcome. Second outcome is processes. Some of us have submitted our assignment on framework. That is a definable, measurable outcome. The third one is product that we're looking at today. You're going to try and see if you can start looking at your product. That's a defined, measurable outcome. So in any product that you have, people must be able to define the outcome. Make it easy, not complex. Okay? So the next thing I was going to talk about is product naming strategy. How do you name your product? A strong name signifies transformation. So when you hear the School of Consulting, in fact, I don't do too many marketing. I really don't do too many marketing. You know, I don't do too many marketing. So when we hear School of Consulting, they know that it's a school where they can learn. Yes, raise 2 hands raised up. Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that we should avoid weak products and branding.
Avoid what?
We should avoid weak product branding.
Yes.
That is getting the products without creating awareness. We should try and create awareness for our products. Then I now begin to think, because I know that there's some people that where their job stops, that's where some other people strength begins.
Yes.
And which, like, it could be a division of labor. There are some people that are very technical.
Yeah.
They know all the nitty-gritty of how to put things together, do it in the technical manner.
Yeah. Hello. Hello.
By when somebody has is always involving in that area, I don't know, is it possible to engage somebody that can actually help them to create that awareness so that they can take them to the next level of their core, of their objectives, of their targets? I'm just thinking, because if somebody is very good technically and the person cannot do presentation, I'm just saying, I know that presentation should be part of what the consultant should have strength for. But there are some people that knows how to really package these things and get it to the very top and to remain there. That is their own strength. So I don't know. What do you think in that area?
Definitely. Like you said, where my strength ends, that's someone else's strength. I mean, yes, collaboration is the order of the day, not competition. So if there are particular skills that you have and there are particular skills that you need and you don't have, by all means, buy those skills from somebody else. I mean, I'm not against buying skills. I would not advise against getting that to collaborate with you to meet you at your weekend. That's what collaboration is all about. People say the best way to grow is to leverage on your own strength and get somebody else to help you in your weak areas. So yes, by all means, do that. Yeah, Mr. Charles, you raise your hands. Mr. Charles, your hands were raised.
Oh, I raised it it's a mistake.
Okay, all right, sir. Okay, so your naming convention, the easiest advice I can give you is use a name that communicates what you do. And I've used this consistently over the years. If you do a research on me, the very first product that we did was in 2006, and it was online recruitment in Nigeria. We called it Nigeria Jobs Online. Nigeria Jobs Online. That's what we called it. So once people saw Nigeria Jobs Online, they knew it was about jobs online in Nigeria. Engineer?
Yes, sir. Sorry for taking us a little bit back. On the issue of pricing, sir. There's like some engineering consultancy that the prices are predetermined. Sometimes it's a percentage of the project value.
Yeah.
Of the project value. Maybe 10%, 15%.
Yeah.
So on that one, how do we come in, to get a fair play?
Okay, good. Now, where you have standardized pricing in your industry, simply stick with the standardized pricing because the client is aware of your standard pricing. So if in engineering is 10%, 5%, or 15%, it has made life easy for you, even as a new entrant, because people know that it's standardized pricing. Now, if an engineer in an industry in standard pricing, the industry standard is 10%, and you're offering 5%, people may wonder, where are you cutting corners if your industry standard is 10% or 15% and you're offering 5%? Generally, it might come across as cheap, but then it could create suspicion. So I say to people, where there are standardized pricing, especially in industries, I think the architects have 5% and thereabouts. Stick with your standardized pricing, at least at the very least. So that would be my advice, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So any other question? So yes, in terms of your brand name, use a name that communicates what you do. Now, some of us might have registered a business name and you don't want to change it. Use a tagline. Use a tagline under the name. I'll tell you a story. I once met a consultant whose the company was Sage, S-A-G-E Consulting, Sage Consulting, Sage Consulting, S-A-G-E Consulting. Now, the moment I heard the name, my mind straight away went to Sage Accounting Software. Sage Accounting Software. Oh, this guy must be selling, this guy must be an accountant. He must be selling Sage software. But after further interaction with this person, I realized that, oh, guess what? They're not selling Sage computer software. They're not even accountants. This person was a lawyer who was into rural electrification. I said, my God, if I didn't interact with this person, I would never know what they do. Now, the lesson from there is this: when people hear your name, straight away, they brand you with what you do. When they hear your product name or your business name, they, in their mind, assume this is what you do. Now, 50% of the time, people might ask, ABC Consulting, what do you consult in? The other 50% that are not asking you may assume that, hey, you may just assume without asking you. And potentially, you have lost 50% of your potential clients simply because people have wrongly assumed what you do. So once you have a name, one of the key things is if your name is not communicating what you're doing, then have a tagline that describes what you do. So I said to this gentleman, Sage Consulting gave me an impression that you are into Sage software, the accounting solution. The guy burst into laughter. I said, please don't blame me. If I didn't spend time with you, I would never know that you're a legal practitioner involved in rural electrification. What you could do is under your name Sage Consulting, because you can't change it, or you may not necessarily want to change it because the name that you have registered and you're using. Under the name Sage Consulting, put a tagline. You can put rural electrification consulting, so that anybody that comes across you know Sage Consulting, this is what you do. So your naming convention is very critical. Then secondly, where there's so much competition, your naming convention will help if it clarifies what you do. And look at the examples I've given you. If you hear the School of Consulting, you know what we do. When we started off Nigeria Jobs Online in 2006 in Nigeria, Nigeria Jobs Online, it says Nigeria Jobs Online. So try as much as possible to break into a crowded market with your naming convention. So avoid generic names. ABC Consulting Services, it is too generic. Or you can have ABC Engineering Services, engineering consultants, they know that you're an engineering consultant. If I don't need the engineering consulting, I won't come to you. So your naming is very critical when you name your product, okay? So by way of summary, own a problem, build a process, then package a product, okay? Package a product. Remember what I said earlier? I'm going to say it again. It's here. The problem is the destination. So imagine you're traveling somewhere. So where you are traveling to is the destination. Yeah, I'm going to America from Nigeria. That is the problem I want to solve. How do I get to America or the United States from Nigeria? So America, United States is my destination. How do I get there is the problem, okay? The process is I have to fly from Accra or from Lagos to either I fly direct or I fly through a country. That's the route. That's the process. That's the process I have to go through to solve my problem. How do I go? The aeroplane, the aircraft is the product, is the vehicle. So as consultants, the problem you're solving is taking the client to a destination. What is that destination? The process is how do you get there? And then the product is the vehicle you use to help the client to get there, to solve the problem. So if you're thinking about it, if you think about it in those dimensions, it is very easy to comprehend. The problem is what you want to do for the client. The process is how you're going to do it. And then the product is the vehicle, the means by which you will solve the problem. Okay, so for this week, as usual, we have our assignment. And so for this week, what is our assignment? Our assignment is basically, hold on, just jumping all over the place. Oh, okay. So the assignment is, it may not be the final product. Yes, Madam Yemisi. Please go ahead, Madam Yemisi.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much for today's presentation, sir. Two things I want to clarify. One, I know a lot of people, when even going through this step by step, people still want to do, they like shortcuts rather. I know that there should be a standard step-by-step approach that we must mandatorily comply with to be able to be a successful consultant in terms of going through the process of problem identification, having our processes outlined, and then providing the relevant product or services that will make us to create a need for ourselves. So, you know, I'm thinking that some people may want to have the kind of shortcuts. Do you think that that is allowed? And how with that, even when we now try to do it, we hope it will not land us into trouble. Or at the end of the day, the clients will now have to come back to us and start complaining that we're not providing the right, we're not meeting their needs. So I think I would appreciate if you can speak to that. Then this second one is, you know, the other day I mentioned that, okay, the other time I mentioned that if people don't have the right, if they're deficient or they don't have the right skill, they can buy skill, just like you advise. So I'm thinking that I don't know if this particular organization give opportunity for freelancing. Maybe people like us, we want to assist to create awareness, more awareness for what we're enjoying here. And we want to bring in people in. Then in process of doing that, is there any commission for that? Thank you.
Okay. I don't advise shortcuts. I'm a trainer, I'm a teacher. And then it can be boring, but teaching can be systemic. But the best way to learn is to build blocks. So if you notice, every time we come on Saturday, I go over what you have gone through. People learn by hearing and hearing and hearing. In fact, from the first day, it may not make sense. But I believe that by now, it's making a lot of sense. And it's because we are doing building blocks. I train people so that they don't have to go looking at their books. So at the end of the 8 weeks, I want you to know it. You will know it. It will be ingrained in you because we've repeated it, we've talked about it, we've done assignments. That's why the assignments are very critical. And let me say this. Not all of us are submitting assignments. I would not give a certificate if there's no 60% compliance. I would not. I need to be sure you know what you're doing before I give you a certificate that you've gone through the School of Consulting. So please let us understand that. So I don't subscribe to shortcuts. I don't. You've paid a lot of money to be here. You understand? So you might as well take advantage of your money, of your payment. Yeah, people could do shortcuts. Like I said, some people have said to me, this 8 weeks is a long time. I don't have the luxury of sitting in your class every morning for 2 hours. In fact, there was a time we were doing 4 hours, but I felt that was too long. So 2 hours, nuggets every Saturday. In fact, we do one thing now. At the end of this training, I chopped down the video to 1 hour consulting nuggets, just 1 hour. By the time you watch the nuggets, the gist of the training, you will get it. It's all to help us in learning. So the way I've structured it, yes, people like shortcuts, but I do encourage it. There's a shortcoming when you start practicing and you don't know what you're practicing. The shortcut will expose that shortcoming. So yes, there can be shortcuts, all of these things, there can be ways of circumnavigating it, but I won't be doing you justice or doing the class justice if I don't give you what I ought to give you for what you are paying for. So personally, I don't subscribe to it in terms of shortcut. 1 minute, engineer. Then the second question is, yes, see, the best form of referral for what you do is when people can tell other people. The best form of referral, the best form of advert is when people say, look, man, I have gone through this training. You need to go to the School of Consulting. That's the best form of referral. So yes, it's something that we do, and then it's something that we compensate. If you bring in people to the training, yes, we will compensate you. So thank you, Madam Yemis, for those 2 questions. Let me take Engineer Ibrahim. Engineer Ibrahim, you raised your hand, sir.
Yes, I'm still having some clarification on the issue of pricing. At the beginning of the lecture, we advised that we should try and develop our own niche. That is, looking at areas that people have not, come before. In case one design the products, and in terms of trying to make research, you not really get someone that has an idea of that product.
Yeah.
So how do we manage the pricing of that product?
Okay, good. In the case where, remember I said in your industry, there are standardized pricing. There's nothing you can do. You follow the standard pricing in your industry for products. Now, where there are no standard pricing, you can name your price. Yeah. So your product price is your production costs and your profit element. How much would it cost me to put together this training? How much would it cost me for my time? And then how much do I need to add as profit? That is your product, that's your cost. So where there are no competitive, where there are no comparable costs, where there are no standard pricing, you can name your price. You can come up with your own price. And the process is look at how much it costs to put everything together. That's one. Look at the time, your own time as a professional, it takes you to put that together. And then number 3, put a profit element on it. That's a rough framework for doing pricing, okay? But like I said, in our stage 2, whatever product you come up with, I would help you with your pricing, okay? So the help is there, okay? There were 2 other hands that were raised. Charles, Mr. Charles. Mr. Charles?
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I hope I've not missed this part of the trading, but I would like to know if there is a session where we'll be talking about identifying the right market. You gave the example where they built a borehole, and yes, that was a good solution. They had identified the problem and did all of that, but it was done in the wrong place. So we have a session where we would help to get a better understanding of identifying the right market.
Okay. When we get to part 2 of the training, that is when we identify your own right market. Okay. So for part 1 is generic, and the advice is identify and validate the demand before you develop a product. But when it comes to part 2, remember part 2 is helping you to develop your own product as an entity, as a consultant. It is at that point that we'll now do the research before we launch the product or before we design and develop the product, we will have validated it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
We'll do that one-on-one because there are 12 consultants here. You have 12 different products. There are going to be 12 different ways. So we're not going to do that in part 1. Is when it comes to part 2, sit down with you, say, Oga Charles, what is the product? Then we'll try and validate it. That is your own product. That will make more sense to you than trying to do it in this session. Does that make sense?
I totally agree. Much.
Okay. All right, sir. All right. Any other question before we go? So, so your assignment for this, yeah.
Okay. So now, that as part of cons, we also need to how to do market research, feasibility studies, and then publish again. Because I was thinking through your that scenarios that you gave us about tap water, setting of tap water, meanwhile, they were just looking for more space. To be able to recreate. So that means that although they solved a problem, but it was not properly solved. So we need to learn how to make use of survey, research analysis, questionnaire, and all whatnots. I think it's part of what we should be on top of as a consultant. Even branding as well. Packaging and branding is also very key. Thank you, sir. That's all I feel.
No, you're right. Absolutely. You cannot carry out research without doing all of that. So yeah, absolutely. Those are elements of what we will do personally in stage 2. Thank you. Thank you for that. So your assignment is define a problem. It may not be the problem that you want to focus on as a consultant, but for the sake of this exercise, what problem do you want to own or do you own? Who has this problem? Okay. When we say who has this problem, one of the things we also look at is how many people have this problem? Okay. What problem do you own? Who has this problem and how many people have this problem? And the reason why we ask for how many people have this problem is to look at the size of the problem. The size of the problem is potentially the size of your market. I repeat, the size of the problem is potentially the size of your market. Again, answer the question, how many people have this problem, also talks about how scalable is this problem? How scalable, how repeatable? Would you have a market for this problem next year? Or is it just a one-off problem that you have a market for? So when we say, who has this problem? How many people have this problem signifies the size of the market, and also will tell you about the scalability of the problem. When I say scalability, like the problem that we are trying to solve of helping people to become consultants, there are many things people can do when they retire. But for those that want to become consultants, that's the problem that we solve. So when we say how many people have this problem, it's like saying how many people want to retire and how many people want to go into consulting year in, year out. So every year we have people retiring. Every year we have people who want to become consultants. That is a scalable problem. Okay, that is a scalable problem. Beware of problems that you can scale. Beware of problems that, for instance, the banking industry. If you are a builder and you've been building banks for the banking industry, that product, building banks, building buildings, or having buildings for banks is a shrinking market. Is a shrinking market. Now, even now, banks are closing. Talk less of say they want to build new branches. Banks are closing. So you got to be careful. Is your market growing? How big is the market? Is it growing? Is it scalable? And then once you know the size of the problem, the size of market or problem, then you can measure your income. Say, for instance, I train 60 people a year and I'm charging X amount of money. How much can I potentially make at the end of the year if I train 60 people in a year? If I train 50, if I train 40, how much can I make? Okay, so as a consultant, one of the key things you must do is ask yourself, how much do I want to make in a year? Or how much should I be making in a year? That's the first question. Second question is, how many people, how much should I charge? How much am I charging per unit? So I want to make $100,000 a year. How much is my product per unit, per person? How many people would I need to charge at that unit price to make $100,000? These are fundamental questions you've got to have before you start. I don't train people to hope and guess that they will make money at the end of the year. No. We start with a measurable outcome. Even if it's $25,000, even if it's $10,000, let's start from somewhere. And if we surpass it, better. You know? Always aim at something, not just let's see what happens. I don't do let's see what happens. Well, let's see what happens. If I'm doing what let's see what happens with you as a consultant, I have failed you. We must have a measurable outcome. Okay? And then the process. What's the process? What are deliverables? Again, the timeline and logic. And then your product name. So this is the assignments that we have. This is the assignment that we have. Let me share an example with you briefly before we go. is a product. Good, I've seen it. Is a This product was developed by a participant on this training, a chartered accountant who is now a consultant as well. So he developed this product, and it's a brilliant product, a very brilliant product. The name of the consultant is Axis Consulting, Axis Consulting, and this is their signature product. The signature product is called the Growth Readiness Accelerator. Growth Readiness Accelerator, meaning it helps companies, SMEs, to grow, transforming high growth SMEs into investor-ready, scalable business in 90 days. The promise is this, the value is this. In 90 days, we will turn your company into an investor-ready company. In 90 days, give us 90 days. We will transform your company in such a way that it can be investor-ready. Investor-ready in the sense that transform your company to a state whereby an investor is ready to put money that will help you to grow. Okay? That is what this product is all about. And the problem they are trying to solve, again, let's go back to the problem. The problem they are trying to solve is there are many small businesses that are unable to attract funding or investors. Many small businesses struggling to attract investors, struggling to attract funding. Not because they are bad businesses, not because they're not generating revenue, but three things. Their finances are not in order. They are weak systems. Investors are they want to look at your trajectory. They want to look at your history. They want to look at how you arrived at where you are and where you are going. So what they will do is bring openness to your finances. Okay? Help you with a roadmap, a strategic plan in terms of how to grow, and then look at your structure. Okay, so these are the three things that they will do in 90 days to help your company be investor ready. Number one, first 21 days, they will assess your company and try and understand what you're doing. Then the second stage is to help you build your systems. And then the last stage is to activate their systems to make you investor ready. They're saying that after 90 days, it will be easier to sell, or sorry, to sell to investors so that you can buy their confidence and they can improve your business by injecting funding. So basically making your company investor ready. That is what this product is all about. Again, remember, they're trying to solve the problem of SMEs, small business, not being able to attract funding simply because of what we mentioned earlier. They're not well structured, they're not well packaged, there's no transparency, their books are not in order. So what this product is by this consultant is to help SMEs to be investor ready, to be funding ready. Okay? And this is what they promise. This is the outcomes they promise. This is the outcomes. Remember, this is the process. You know, in our lecture, we said, what is the problem? The problem here is to help SMEs become investor ready. Or, no, that's the objective. The problem is investors or companies are not investor ready. Companies are not able to get funding to grow. That's the problem. So the process, this is the process that they will take the company through. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay? And this is the outcomes they promise. So this is the product. This mentality is the product. The growth as readiness accelerator is the product. These are the steps. The problem is helping SMEs overcome funding challenges. And this is what they promise. With this product, these are their deliverables. With this product, there's 3 times chances of securing funding, of funding success rates. 40% improvement in cash flow, transparency, and accuracy. In terms of efficiency as a business, they promise 30% improvement based on these products. And then between 2 to 5 times revenue growth potentials based on these products. And then there's a fee that you pay in Naira times between 5 million and 8 million. Now, this is a product that one of our participants on this product has launched as a way of helping SMEs. So they've identified the problem, remember? They've identified the process, and then they've defined the outcome. Yes, Madam Yemisi.
Thank you, sir, for sharing that. One, I actually wanted to know the success rates, especially when they set this up and it becomes a reality. If yes, the nice thing you're sharing us just to also, borrow a lead from this, leverage on this, and also help us to be able to practicalize everything that we're learning here. So what I want to find out is, I don't know if there has been a 360-degree follow-up to see if truly they've set this thing up and is actually working well. Reason why I'm asking this is, a lot of times we package things and then it's nice to implement, but another thing is for us to test. I don't know how they do their testing to be showing that they are getting the desired results that is required. Because in a situation by yes, they have been able to identify what SME is in need of for investors to be able to come in and invest into, to be able to come in. But have they been able to test to be able to show that, one, there's no diversion? Secondly, whatever solution they are provided is standard and generally acceptable worldwide in a situation whereby there will not be any form of loophole. And the testing is, are they getting desired results to encourage investors to actually come in? So that will help people to say, okay, yes, they've done a very good job. Thank you, sir.
To be honest with you, right now, I'm demonstrating this as a product. I've got no business with this company, but I'm demonstrating a product. But good question. We used this for a webinar recently, and one of the questions that came up is, okay, what is your track record? And they were able to answer that they've invested in X number of companies and they have the results to show for it. The reason why I'm not showing results is that's not my concern. My concern is to show an example of somebody that has come up with a product to solve a problem and to show how they define their processes and deliverables. But yes, good and valid question. But for this purpose of this training, I just want to show us an example of developing a product and showing what it looks like. Now, as far as the results they are getting, they were able to demonstrate that indeed they were getting results. In fact, they have another company, a finance company, which helped them to finance this. So they are not relying on a third-party finance company. So if they were able to identify an SME that's ready for growth, what they now do is for any company that comes to them, they invest in that company by way of ownership. So they're not just throwing money at the company, they own part of it. So in owning part of it, they are also ensuring that the company is successful. If the company is successful, their model will be successful. That is what they have adopted. So they're not just preparing companies for a third party. They are preparing companies that they can invest in as well. So if they're sure about what they're doing, then they too can put their money in it. So they've had some success rates that they quoted for us. But like I said, for me and for now, I just want to show an example of, but good question that people always ask investors, oh, what is the success rate? But for the purpose of this exercise, it's just to give an example of the product, okay? All right, any other question? Any other question? Okay, I'll have this as part of the handout for today's class so that we can look at it much more critically. All right. Any final questions before we go? Any final questions? All right, let's take some feedback. Let's start with Madam Yemisi.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so before I mention my feedback, back to that example, sorry, sir, is I'm actually using banking now to think through that. You know, like if you're going to go into, if banking is going to give you any credit facility, you know, first of all, you must have an account statement that's at least 6 months. So in the session whereby they're thinking about giving a 90 days results to say yes, because one of the clause that they put in there, they put 90 days. That 90 days should be measurable. And the reason why I'm even emphasizing it, because you also have a claim in it, so you can go back and revisit it. So in the session whereby I want to be sure that that 90 days is ideal for them to take a decision that yes, everything is settled for that company. So if embassy is asking for 6 month statements, they have a reason for requesting for. The bank that wants to give credit facility is asking for maybe part of their risk acceptance criteria is like you must have been in business for 6 months and you'll be able to show a statement that you have 6 months. There must be a particular thing that they look at for requesting for 6 months. So when somebody is saying 90 days, I don't know. I'm just trying to think through that. Then now, my takeaway from this, every lecture
let me say this before I forget. Let me say, the person that developed this, the chartered accountant, and was head of credits. So I think they know what they're talking about. He was head of credits. And so, like you rightly said, they will have built in the credits assessment system into this. I wouldn't expect anything less as head of credits. So, I mean, I don't have the opportunity to explain everything they are doing. But at least I know that as head of credits, and thank you brought this up, I'm sure there's enough due diligence in what they're doing. I think their 90 days is for the entire process. Like I said, I would believe that they know what they're doing. Okay, your feedback, ma'am.
Okay, so my feedback, everything we've discussed today has been very good knowledge. It's been another knowledge for me, and it's also an eye-opener. So I really want to appreciate you for all that I've been able to take away today in terms of identifying the problem, providing a standard process,
yes,
and then having our products to be able to meet the needs of to be a successful consultant, having a product. So there are some key things that even in all these 3 processes that actually noted, where you said we should carry out our research, do you understand? For be able to provide a product, a research should be carried out. Then there shouldn't be pricing of products in order for us to be competitive. And then before creating a product, we must validate that there's a demand.
Yes.
For so, and then of course, how many people in terms of how scalable, then we should be aware of a problem and then scale such, and then also know that how many people will be there to make plans in terms of the process and deliverables. So these are some of the things. But what the other one I didn't get more is the first one. And I don't know, I think you took it away before I could even, I know I could go back and check it. When you were talking about why consultant must have a product, in terms of inconsistent revenue. I don't know if you can take it back to that very first.
Yeah, why consultants?
Yes, why consultant must have. So you talk about without the product, what we'll see. And so just to note, I missed a number of points from here, but I think I can get it after the lecture if I go back to the slide.
Okay, I think the important thing again for this slide is when you don't have a product, you are just another consultant. And one thing I didn't mention is this. When you don't have a product, just as another consultant, you are competing with several other consultants. So you are relying on somebody giving you an assignment as a consultant. But fundamentally, and this is important, once you have a product, your sources of income is doubled. When you get assignments from clients, from a third party, and when you have a product to sell. So that's what I mean by when you don't have a product, you are just another consultant. But when you have a product, not only can you get assignment from third party, you also have something that you can sell. So for me, that's one of the most important reasons for having a product. Yeah, 2 hands are raised. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. 2 hands are raised. Mr. Timothy,
yes,
Ambassador.
yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah, please, just a quick one. I would like to find out for you to help us differentiate, between a consultant, an owner, a manager, and a client. Are there really I need some clarity. Can a consultant can own a product as well as a client can also own a product? And then what is the difference between the manager and what role it comes in? Because 4 of them seems to be having a special role in the chain. I don't know if you get my...
Okay. Now, a consultant from the perspective of what we are doing, of this training, a consultant from the perspective of this training is an independent professional who is trying to solve a problem for a client. The client can be an owner of a business. But guess what? The consultant too is an owner of his own business. Now, when a consultant gets an assignment, all this process of what's the problem, what's the process, what's the product, how do we deliver it, how do we solve the problem, he manages it. So a consultant can be an owner, he can be a manager as well. But for the purpose of this training, the consultant is separate in the sense that you are consulting to solve a problem for clients, for people that own businesses. Yeah? You're not working for the client. You are an independent consultant. Even though in your own right, you own your own consultancy. So you are an owner. In the process of delivering the consulting solution, you will manage the process. And again, you're a manager. In fact, we call it a project manager. That's when a consultant becomes a project manager. But for ease of understanding, a consultant is a third party, an independent person from a client that you are trying to provide a solution to. So does that make sense, sir?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to, is it Charles?
Yes. Thank you once again. My feedback is that this session has helped to reemphasize the need for problem validation and research.
Yeah.
Also, the need to identify your market. If you would permit, I would like to dovetail into a question, if you would permit. And that's, from your experience, which is more efficient? Is it more efficient to develop a product than look for a scalable market? Or to identify a problem that exists in a scalable market, then go look for the product or go develop the product, which is a more efficient approach to take, especially when you have limited resources in terms of finance, time, and all of that. That's my question.
Okay, all right. Mariam, can you hear us? Mariam says she can't hear. Can you hear us? Mariam, I think it's from your end. I think it's from your end. Okay. Anything that works for you, to be honest. Anything that works for you, maybe there is an existing product and then it's a scalable product if that works for you. But again, like I said, for the process of teaching, I've got to take you through the standard. So problem, process, product. Now, if you now happen to find a product that is existing, or you find an established problem or a product in the market, can you scale it? The only downside of that is you may not own the problem. You may not own the problem. So that's why I would always recommend start from the problem, because the problem is synonymous or is related to your competency. You always do better from your area of strength. Remember what I said, my background was in consulting. So if my background of 25 years is in consulting, it is easier for me to teach consulting because that's my background. Okay, so I start with problem because I have expertise in that area. So that's why it might be a longer process to start with problem. But that problem is based on your expertise and the market demand. Now, if you want to go through the process of, there's an established market. Is it a market that is scalable? That is also fine. But the key thing is, do you own the problem? I believe you do better eventually if you own the problem. When you say own the problem, you saw the problem. Like I said, I looked at my consultant, I looked at my skills. I've got this many years experience in consulting. That is my experience. My expertise is in training. How do I marry the two together? Okay, let me start doing training in consulting. Then we test the market. We validate it, then we now see that it's scalable. So that's generic. It's a natural progression. But if you now see a market that is existing, you want to find out, is it a scalable market? That's also fine. But for the basis of teaching, I always like to teach people from the barest minimum. And if there are other ways of achieving the same result, please do not hesitate in doing that. But at least I owe it to you to teach you these other options. Okay? All right, sir. Any other question?
All right. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Any other question? Okay. Okay, let's get to Mr. Madayemisi. I think, can you hear us, or she's gone now? Let's go to Mr. Aguirre, your feedback. Mr. Mustafa. Mr. Mustafa, are you there?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you for this because I was not this is the first, so I actually.
We can barely hear you, sir.
Okay. Hello, sir. Hello. Can you hear me now, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I said I missed the first module due to the time I joined, so I started with the second. But the way you have actually taken us back to from the first module, then to the second and the third, that's the owning of the problem, and then the process, and then the product which you deliver today has actually helped me to really understand the block step-by-step ways. And for me, for the product the lessons that you gave today, I've been able to.
We lost. Okay, Mr. Mustafa.
Hello, sir.
For everyone, let's summarize it. It's breaking up so that we get your key points. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So for the product development, I've been able to understand that the process of actually developing the product, you have to define the problem, then the transformation process you are going to take, and then the package deliverables, and then the scope and timelines, then the strategies and all of that. So those are the really important things.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Let's go to Stan. Stan in Zambia. Stan, are you there? Stan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, let's go to your feedback. What's your takeaway from today? What's that?
Yeah, to start with, thank you very much for today's lesson. It has been very insightful, particularly on the part that we must validate the market before we start providing the consultancy product. And also that the name of the product is a very important aspect of marketing. So these are my take home for today. I submit and appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Stan. All right, let's go to Madam Yemisi Oguntono. Madam Oguntono, Yemisi, are you there?
Yes, I am, sir.
Yes. What's your takeaway for today?
Good morning. Good morning. My takeaway today is I learned the essence of research and also that the consultants should not only depend on your own skills and capabilities. That if you need be, you can take other people, you can learn from other or use other people's skills and capacity. And I also learned something very interesting with this issue of the provision of boreholes. That sometimes you are not quick to give an answer. That sometimes the answer may not be what they really need. So the market is very important and validating whatever you want to do by other means before you now take that step. Thank you. That's my take for this day.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Charity from Zambia. Charity, are you there? Charity, you want to give us your takeaway for today? Charity? Mr. Charles, I know you've asked a question. Have you given us your feedback? Let's go to Mr. Charles.
Yes, I've given my feedback.
Okay, thank you, sir. Stan has done. Engineer, let's go to Engineer Ibrahim. Let's have your feedback, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for your consistency in giving this assignment. I think so.
We can't hear you, sir. Engineer, we can't hear you. Dr. Tina, are you on standby? Dr. Tina?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Because I'm actually in transit, so my signals have been fluctuating.
Okay, let's have it. Let's have your feedback.
Okay, I like the emphasis on the 3 Ps, the problem,
Dr. Tina,
the process.
The major feedback I got from this particular monitor.
So who has the floor now? Somebody else is speaking.
Dr. Tina, hold on. Dr. Tina, hold on.
Hold
on, Dr. Tina. Engineer Ibrahim, can you conclude? Engineer Ibrahim, conclude, please. We've lost him. All right, Dr. Tina, please go ahead. Dr. Tina, go ahead.
Okay, so my take home for the class today, that emphasis on the problem, that problem that stands you out, that you are owning, so that you are not just playing in a general space.
Yeah.
Okay, that stands out for me because that's a starting point before you can now start talking about process. Then the fact that you don't have to own all the skills, you could collaborate, to be able to get the work done.
Yeah.
Then you don't assume that you know what the problem is with the borehole story. Okay, what you think, it shouldn't be about what you think. It should be about what it actually is.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's also another one that I picked, from the class today. Though I'm still struggling to. There's something you said about one same problem, keep repeating it until it gets to a point where when they think about that thing, your name pops out. You are the one they know, that is able to solve that problem. That's what it actually means to stand out. And you've done that with your own consulting practice. It's just that for me, I'm still looking for that one point where the problem stands out such that one can build up capacity, in that area and then stand out at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tina. We are still together. We work on it together.
All right.
All right, man. All right. Engineer Ibrahim, are you back? Engineer Ibrahim? Engineer Ibrahim? Engineer Ibrahim? Engineer Ibrahim? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. I'm signing out now. Please, if we have not completed our assignment for last week, let's endeavor to do so, because there's already another assignment for this week. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.